A 28-year-old female just found out that my partner, 31-year-old male of 12 years, has been sexting in online chat rooms with local men for the past 7 months. To make things worse, I am 8 months pregnant with our second child. I want to preface all of this by explaining what happened in the days leading up to this. Before this day, we had a small disagreement about parenting styles, in which he felt that I disrespected him in my communication. So he had been giving me the silent treatment for 3 days. He would not look my way or even be in the same room as me. After the 3 days of being completely shunned, I finally had enough, as this is emotionally hurtful. And we live under the same roof with our child, who is watching all of this go down. I confronted him about it and told him how immature he is behaving, and that I did not deserve this treatment or stress, especially while pregnant. This had caused me immense stress, and I had not eaten anything for the whole 3 days at this point, due to loss of appetite from the stress and crying all day. The baby is already developing much slower than they should be for how far along I am, and I've been needing bi-weekly ultrasounds to monitor baby's growth due to this. He is aware of all of this, as he has been present during my appointments. His response to all of this was that the treatment I have been getting is justified, and he will let me know when and if he decides to speak to me again. And that I will just need to wait or leave him and move on with my life. I was in disbelief of the words coming out of his mouth and how cruelly he was treating me, because it was completely disproportionate to the small disagreement we had. My intuition was telling me that something must be up, because it seemed like he was just looking for any little reason to pick a fight with me, or possibly even just leave this relationship. A huge argument ensued, and I ended up going through his phone. I found all of the evidence on his phone, screenshots of exchanged lewd pictures and bits and pieces of the chats that were all saved in his files. In one of the chats, one man had even given him his address, no more than a 10-minute drive away from our home. I was sick to my stomach and trembling after making the discovery. I could not breathe and had to put the phone down to steady my breath and lower my heart rate. He just kept staring at me and asking over and over, "What's wrong and what happened?" And his tone had completely changed from a condescending, argumentative shouting to an "oh shoot, what did I do" kind of tone. He had no clue that those chats were saved to his files, and lost all color in his face when I confronted him and showed him what the FI was looking at on his phone. I've never seen him look so guilty before. A huge, deafening silence before he got super defensive and denied everything multiple times. He was claiming that it was all spam, but eventually he admitted to it because the evidence was too incriminating with pictures of him and all. In front of him, I shared all of the files directly to my personal email, in case he ever tried to turn this on me and gaslight me into thinking this is somehow my fault, which is his go-to move. He claimed that he was just curious and bored, but that he is most certainly not gay. How the F can I believe that? My thing is, why would it take 7 months and multiple conversations to unalive your curiosity? Why were people giving him their address? Why were these all local men? Has he met up with any of these people and cheated on me physically? And then laid in bed with me at night after that? Has he exposed me to any STDs? How much of it was a lie? Was any of it true? Am I just a cover-up story? Is this why our intimacy life sucks? I mean, I know I'm pregnant, so it wouldn't be the best right now. But even before that, it was lacking. My mind is racing, and I don't even know where to begin straightening my thoughts. He claims that he loves me, and that he's not curious anymore, so he had stopped. But I have evidence of conversations as recent as this past December. This was ongoing throughout the time span that we conceived this child, my birthday and Christmas, all while smiling in my face and acting like we are a happy family. How can he do something like this if he actually loved me? He says that he's remorseful and has apologized to me, and says that he won't do anything like this ever again and that he will even go to therapy. But the problem is that now the trust is broken and I don't believe anything that's coming out of his mouth. I am completely disgusted by him. I feel so stupid, dirty, and exposed. I thought we were happy this whole time. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm too pregnant for this, and I need some unbiased opinions on my situation so that I know that I am not hastily making decisions because I am pregnant and emotional. Edit. He claims that he has never physically cheated on me or met up with anyone, and that all of this was only online. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I am so sorry he did this to you and your family. The first step is for you to reach out to a counselor. A counselor can help you sort through what is going on. To be honest, this is likely the end of the marriage. Unfortunately, this is kind of common. A man wants a wife and family for the sake of appearances, but prefers intimacy with men, sometimes with multiple men. Right now, he will say and do anything to keep you from leaving, but this will keep happening. After a counselor, you'll probably need to speak with an attorney about your options. Comment 2. Whatever his definition, gay, curious, bi, none of that matters. He cheated. And if he didn't meet them in person, then it's emotional cheating. He broke your marriage vows and your trust. Get yourself tested. Create a safe space for yourself. I'd kick him to the couch until he gets out. It will be difficult for you to leave in this situation and with the child. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still reeling from the shock of it all. I found out my partner of 12 years has been sexting men online, and I'm 8 months pregnant with our second child. I'm trying to process everything, but it's been a whirlwind of emotions. After I confronted him about the sexting, he swore he never met up with anyone, and it was all just online. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. I remembered the late nights when he said he was working overtime, the sudden weekend trips he claimed were for clearing his head, and the way he'd been distant, even before our parenting disagreement. It all started to add up. I decided to dig a little deeper. I went through our phone records and found a number that kept popping up, especially on those nights he was supposedly working late. My heart sank as I dialed the number, only to hear a familiar voice on the other end. It was the man from the chat, the one who lived just 10 minutes away. He confirmed my worst fears. They had met up several times. Confronting my partner again was one of the hardest things I've ever done. He broke down, admitting to the physical affairs, claiming it was a mistake and that he was confused about his sexuality. He begged for forgiveness, but I felt like I was staring at a stranger. The man I had built a life with, the father of my children, was not who I thought he was. The heartbreak was unbearable. I had to think about our child, who had been witnessing the tension in our home, and our unborn baby, who needed a stress-free environment. I couldn't let my partner's actions affect their well-being. I moved into the guest room, needing space to think. My partner tried to talk, to explain his actions, but I couldn't listen. I was too hurt, too betrayed. I thought about our past, the happy memories we shared, and how it all seemed like a lie now. I remembered how he proposed, the look in his eyes when our first child was born, and the plans we made for the future. It all felt tainted. The next few days were a blur. I went to my bi-weekly ultrasound alone, the silence in the car deafening. The baby was still developing slowly, and the doctor's concerned looks only added to my stress. I had to be strong for my children, but inside I was crumbling. My partner started therapy as he promised, but I couldn't bring myself to join him. I needed time to heal, to figure out if I could ever trust him again. The house felt like a battlefield, with silent meals and avoided glances. Our child kept asking why mommy and daddy weren't talking, and it broke my heart even more. I reached out to a friend who had been through a similar situation. She listened as I poured out my pain, my fears, and my doubts. She didn't judge, didn't tell me what to do, just offered a shoulder to cry on. It was a small comfort, but it helped me feel less alone. As I write this, I'm still unsure of what the future holds. My partner's betrayal has shattered the foundation of our relationship. I'm trying to focus on my children, to give them the love and stability they need. But it's hard when every look at my partner reminds me of his deceit. Friend always judges. My child-free life, but admits she's jealous and overwhelmed. So I help her find a part-time job, and we learn to support each other's choices without comparison. My long-term friend has become very annoying since she became a mom. Background info. My friend and I have been friends since we were 13 years old. Now we are 27. She got married and had her first child at 24, second child at 26, and has decided to be a stay-at-home mom. Her husband has recently become a cop. I have been a nurse for 5 years, I'm childless, and in a long-term relationship for 7 years. My friend drives me absolutely nuts with her constant sob story about being a stay-at-home mom. Yesterday evening, we went to the gym together, and when leaving, she asked if I worked tomorrow. I said no, and she replied, "Oh, well, I do. I work every day." I'm so freaking tired of her implying that it must be nice for me to only work 3 to 4 days a week, even though that is a full-time job as a nurse. If I have a day off where I exercise and do my hobbies, it's also looked down upon. I feel that she is always comparing our situations when they are not comparable. I can see how exhausting it would be to spend almost 24/7 with 2 toddlers, and I try to empathize with that. However, that's exactly why I don't want a kid right now. My life is not the way that it is by accident. I have chosen to create this chapter in my life that is all about me and exploring my free time and my career. She is constantly listing off how she is a chef, a nurse, a driver, a maid, and a mom. And sometimes I just want to say, "Oh, really? You are a nurse? Do you want to clock in for my 12-hour shift and tell me that it's not as tiring as what you do? That it's not as overstimulating as staying home with toddlers? Where did you earn your bachelor's degree?" Also, if we are going to call doing basic things to maintain our houses and feed ourselves a job, then I'm also a maid and a chef. I personally don't look down on stay-at-home moms. My older sister has chosen that lifestyle, and I think it's worked out wonderfully for her and her family. My problem is that my friend is comparing our lives and constantly throwing a pity party while putting me down. I'm just done feeling like I can't talk about being tired or overstimulated or burnt out because I'm not a mom. Or I can't talk about positive things like trying a new workout or going on a vacation because she is a mom, so she doesn't have time for anything. Somehow I'm not a real adult with real responsibilities because I have chosen not to have a child yet. Am I being too sensitive, or am I interpreting this wrong? Am I lacking sympathy for her situation? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. When she puts you down, just simply say, "I understand being a stay-at-home mom is difficult and I want to be a support for you. But if you continue to put down how I've chosen to live my life, I'm going to have to step back from the relationship." It's totally possible for her to complain about her life without putting you down. She puts you down because she is jealous. Reminding her that this is the life she chose might help. It might not. I've had this happen with some friends, and it's not easy. I'm direct to protect myself, though. I've been a people pleaser, and I do my best to not put my own self and mental health on the back burner for other people. If she is embarrassed, that's on her. She is the one who is putting you down, not the other way around. Edit. Spelling error. Comment 2. A situation like this, if you truly value the friendship, probably requires a light touch, at least initially. When it comes up again, you could try using a bit of humor like, "Okay, name, well, it's not a contest," in a light joking tone. And some variations on that, basically to highlight this unhealthy pattern of behavior without making a big deal out of it or triggering a defensive response. But hopefully it will bring a little bit more self-awareness on her part. Just be very careful not to play into the comparison framing by either downplaying her struggle or emphasizing your own. If that doesn't help after a while, then you might need to be a bit more direct about it, as other commenters have mentioned. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, back with an update on the situation with my friend who's been driving me up the wall with her mom comparisons. So, a lot has happened in the past week, and let me tell you, it's been a ride. First off, let's rewind a bit. My friend, let's call her Sarah, has been my buddy since our early teens. We've been through a lot together, from high school drama to choosing our career paths. I went into nursing and she settled into life as a stay-at-home mom. Her husband, recently becoming a cop, has been working odd hours, which I guess adds to her stress. Now, onto the juicy stuff from this week. After our last gym session, where Sarah made that snide remark about her working every day, I was pretty miffed. I needed to clear the air. So I invited her over for coffee, hoping we could hash things out. She agreed, and that's where things got interesting. She walked in, kids in tow, looking like she hadn't slept in days. I braced myself for another round of the mommy martyr spiel, but instead, she broke down. Turns out her husband's new job was taking a toll on their marriage. He was hardly home, and when he was too exhausted to help with the kids or the house. She felt like she was doing it all alone. I was taken aback. Here I was, ready to confront her, and instead, I found myself comforting her. It was a reminder that we all have our struggles, even if we don't always see them. But I couldn't let the opportunity slip by. I gently brought up how her constant comparisons made me feel. I told her that while I might not have kids, my life isn't a walk in the park either. Nursing is tough, and my days off are my lifeline. To my surprise, Sarah listened. She actually listened. And then she apologized. She admitted that she'd been unfair and that she was just overwhelmed and envious of my freedom. It was a moment I didn't expect, and it felt like we were 13 again, sharing secrets and fears without judgment. We came to a compromise. Sarah would try to stop the comparisons, and I promised to be more open about my own challenges. We agreed to support each other, no matter what our lives looked like. But wait, there's more. Just when I thought we were on the path to normalcy, Sarah dropped a bombshell. She confessed that she was considering going back to work part-time. She missed her career and wanted to find a balance between work and family life. I was floored. This was the woman who had been all about the stay-at-home mom life, and now she was thinking of returning to work? I supported her decision, of course. It was a big step for her, and I could see how much it meant. We spent the rest of the afternoon looking at job listings and updating her resume. It was nice, being there for each other in a way that wasn't just about venting or comparing. The week went on, and things seemed to be looking up. Sarah started talking to her husband about her plans, and he was surprisingly supportive. They began working out a schedule that would allow her some time to focus on her career, while he took on more responsibilities at home. As for me, I've been trying to be more understanding. I've realized that everyone's got their own battles, and just because someone else's life looks different, it doesn't mean it's any easier or harder. We're all just trying to make it through, one day at a time. My husband chooses gaming over family. So I plan to leave, but after a heart-to-heart, he sells his computer and starts being the dad he should have been. So background, we've been together for 11 years, married for 5 years. He is 35 years old and I'm 34. We have an 11-year-old and an 8-month-old together. He is addicted to gaming, and I knew this years ago when we were dating, but he swore up and down he would stop and hasn't. 2 incidents from years ago still haunt me. One day when we were dating, I stayed over at his place and he was on his computer all day. I eventually walked out and went home, but he didn't even notice I left and didn't bother to call me to find out where I went. I should have ended it then, but I didn't. The second incident that absolutely broke me was when I was pregnant with our 11-year-old. My pregnancy was difficult because I kept having gallbladder attacks, and I had a sonogram one morning. He knew about it. I called him and texted him, but he never answered. In the end, I had to call his mother, and she told me he was up until 5 a.m. playing video games. He knew it was an important appointment, and yet he prioritized his games over me. He promised that day to change, but nothing has changed. He comes home from work every day, barely acknowledges me or the kids, and goes straight to the computer until 12:01 a.m. He was even on from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. tonight. I have lost count of how many times I have told him that I am tired of being in last place to his video games. It unalives me to see the look on our 11-year-old's face when he tries to get his father's attention. Tonight, the baby was also trying to get his attention, and although he is only 8 months old, babies know when they are being ignored. His eyes were filling up with tears and he looked like he was about to cry. Even on vacations, he has to bring his laptop to play his games. These are only weekend getaways, and he couldn't even go 72 hours without gaming. If this were drugs or alcohol, I would have left him years ago without looking back. There are times when I confront him about this, and he goes from 0 to 50 in a second. He never gets physically hurtful, but his yelling is unbearable, and he never apologizes. I always have to go into another room and break down. But what hurts the most is that he always asks me why I'm so depressed and what he can do to make me happy. I am running a household for 4 people without any help from him. Our 11-year-old helps me with the dishes and cleaning, but my husband does nothing. The only reason I haven't left is because I would have to move back home with my parents and have nothing of my own. I would feel like a failure in my marriage and failing my children. I can't even talk to him when he's gaming because he claims I'm nagging him, and asking him for help is always out of the question, even if it's just 10 minutes to myself. I don't know what to do anymore. He refuses to talk to a counselor, claiming they do nothing. I swear, if he had to choose between losing his family and his video games, he would give up his family. That's how bad it's gotten. I am literally in tears as I write this because I don't know what to do anymore. It is even worse, because growing up, my dad had always put his football games before anything I did. I was very active as a child with soccer and horseback riding. My mom worked as a waitress, so she was never able to see me play soccer or ride horses. Once fall came and it was football season, I didn't matter anymore. My dad would drop me off at the soccer field or barn and go home to watch a football game on TV. My friends' parents or my coach would have to drive me home. To have a husband who does the same thing is so painful. I hate video games, and for anyone to say that it's not a big deal, unless you've been made to feel like the least important person in someone's life because of a game and feel invisible, you have no clue how much this hurts. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It is astonishing that people allow gaming to impact their family life. How could you prefer spending time on a virtual game rather than with your own family members? This perspective comes from someone who has used game consoles for the majority of their life. It is unfortunate that you find yourself in this situation, but as you mentioned, you were aware of his behavior and still chose to continue down that path. Now that you know, it is time to make a decision. He is not going to change, and you are well aware of this fact. He has made promises and blatantly broken them, making him not only absent as a father and partner, but also a dishonest individual. If you remain in this situation, your children will grow up thinking that this type of relationship dynamic is normal. It is best to leave with the children and seek legal advice regarding divorce. You deserve better than this. Comment 2. I am uncertain why you decided to marry him and have 2 children with him, but it is too late to dwell on that now. Would you prefer to spend the rest of your life feeling this way? Additionally, your children will pick up on these feelings and experience the same neglect and lack of love that you did as a child. I suspect that your 11-year-old has already noticed it. Is it not better to gather the courage to divorce and move back home instead of subjecting yourself and your children to this? Although it may be difficult initially, things will eventually improve. Frankly, by staying, you are failing your children even more. Besides, you are still young. If you desire, you have the ability to find a more worthy partner who will be attentive and present in the lives of you and your children. Now, for the update. Daemch Tuan. So, it's been 3 days since I last posted about my husband's gaming addiction and how it's been affecting our family. I never expected my post to blow up the way it did, but here I am with an update that's been a ride of emotions. After I posted, I decided to have another talk with my husband. I was nervous, remembering how he'd react in the past, but this time, something was different. Maybe it was the way I approached him, or maybe my words finally sunk in. I told him about the baby's tears and our eldest's disappointment. I reminded him of the time he missed my sonogram and how that made me feel. I could see something in his eyes change. Day 2. Yesterday, he came home from work, and to my shock, he didn't head straight for the computer. Instead, he sat down with me and our 11-year-old for dinner. It was the first time in months we'd eaten as a family without the glow of a screen nearby. Our conversation was awkward at first, but Then our son started talking about a school project on volcanoes, and my husband actually listened. He even suggested they build a model together this weekend. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, my husband opened up about his own father. He shared stories I'd never heard before, about how his dad was always working and never had time for him. He admitted he was scared of turning into his father, and that he used gaming as an escape from that fear. It was a jaw-dropping moment for me, seeing this vulnerable side of him. Day 3. Today he surprised us all. He sold his gaming computer, just like that. He said he realized he was on the brink of losing his family, and that scared him more than anything. We used the money to start a college fund for the kids. It was a huge step, and I felt a mix of pride and disbelief. But the real test came tonight. The baby was fussier than usual, and I was at my wit's end trying to calm him down. My husband stepped in, took our son in his arms, and for the first time, I saw him truly connect with our baby. The house was filled with laughter instead of the usual clacking of a keyboard. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!